Welcome to the Dynamics of Everyday Life, where we demystify some tricky concepts and get to know ourselves a little bit better. Welcome back to the show, everyone. Today I'm talking about the moments where someone does something that is so incredibly brazen that it stops you in your tracks and your jaw hits the floor. The moments where you wonder if you've maybe actually been transported to a parallel universe where weird things are part of the norm. Maybe you think, am I hallucinating here? And these are the moments where I pick up my phone and immediately message my inner circle to check that it's not actually me that's losing the plot. The number of times I'll think, is it me? Am I overreacting? Because I have been known to enjoy a bit of drama in my time. But most of the time it's not. Because there are people out there who will behave in the most outlandish ways, which seem to be accepted by those around them. So today, I'm exploring the psychology of brass necks. Why does audacity fascinate us? Because let's face it, it does. We get drawn into these scenarios. People who behave brazenly can really get under our skin. We know that the most supportive thing to do in these moments is for us to channel our inner Audrey Hepburn or Elsa from Frozen and let it go with grace and poise. But sometimes it's just not that easy. Why do we get so entangled? Well, one of the reasons is that it breaks the implicit social contract that we all have. I've been known to wail, but you just don't do that in these moments. And then I'm reminded of someone very wise saying to me once, not everyone has your standards, Julia. And this is true. We all think that we work and live within the same moral code, but in reality, we've all got different understandings of what this actually looks like in practice. There's also a bit of envy and fascination here. Sometimes their shamelessness activates our own repressed desires to be free, even though we don't actually want to be that person or live to their moral compass. There can be a bit of a longing to be that uninhibited. Years ago, when I started working in community mental health, I spoke to my university tutor about some of the challenges that I was experiencing then. I was very young at this point. I was probably only about 22. So I had very little idea about what I was doing or how to respond when people had no filter on what they were saying to me. Now, he said to me, wouldn't it be wonderful to be that free? Now, I don't think for a moment that he was saying it would be wonderful to have a mental health problem. Far from it. But what he was talking about was the freedom to fully express yourself, which we don't have very much these days. So there's something about people who behave so brazenly that we might possibly have a sneaking admiration for. What's going on from a psychodynamic perspective? Well, it won't surprise you to learn that there's more than a few defence mechanisms popping up here. One of the biggest ones is denial. People who behave brazenly also have the ability to deny to themselves that they're doing anything wrong, out of the ordinary, or morally questionable, because they don't want to see it. And no amount of you pointing out the truth is going to help here. This can tie in neatly with rationalization. Remember, rationalization is where we give ourselves logical reasons for behaving in particular ways. So if someone is acting in a particularly audacious manner, chances are that they're going to give themselves carte blanche to do this. There's also a bit of narcissistic grandiosity playing out. They feel entitled to behave in this way because of who they are, or at least who they think they are. Now, we might have a bit of identification with the protagonist here too. We might have a bit of a temptation to be thinking, well, maybe I should start being a bit more shameless myself. If this sounds familiar to you, and then when you've been a bit more shameless, it's not worked out in your favour, then don't worry. This is because it's not who you are. When we take up roles that don't fit our identity, then we can end up having a less than positive result, shall we say. This type of audacity often covers up a deep fragility within the person themselves. It hides all those feelings of not being good enough, not having enough foundation to what they're doing, maybe. When you think about it, it's defensive behaviour at its finest. Attack is the best form of defence and all that. Well, grandiosity is the best form of hiding insecurity. Or maybe not. As once you've seen it for what it is, it's not hidden at all. And at the same time, it's whipping up our own superego into a frenzy. That bit within us that's screaming out loud, how dare they? And once our superego gets going, it's very hard to quieten this down, because our moral outrage has been well and truly ramped up. And we've all been there. I used to think that I wanted to be more assertive. Turns out, what I meant was I wanted to be less polite when someone pinches my homework. But that's not assertive. That's me reacting. And, in reality, that's not going to do me any favours, in either the short or the long term. What can we learn from this? Matthew Hussey, if you've not heard of him, he is a very successful dating coach. He always says that silence is a response, and it's a pretty powerful one at that too. And he's right. Saying nothing can speak volumes. And if someone's trying to wind you up with their behaviour, then nothing will irritate them more than you not responding. In these moments, I often think to myself, what would Audrey Hepburn do? And the answer is that she would act with grace and poise. Now, we know, sometimes it's more easily said than done, but holding on to your own dignity and your integrity is always worth it. My invitation to you this week is for you to consider where in your life you might have been railing against someone's brazen behaviour. Did you channel your inner Audrey and respond calmly and unruffled? Or did your superego take over the show as you morphed into Veruca Salt from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, stamping your feet, shrieking, "It's not fair"? Now, no judgment here. We've all done it. Maybe, and this is a teensy bit challenging, you've been the one behaving brazenly, and it's something you've struggled to reconcile yourself with. We're only human. It could quite easily happen to any one of us. And, as always, give yourself some grace. It can be challenging to acknowledge that this is part of your modus operandi, but I promise you that your relationships will improve if this is something that you can look at. If you can't wait for the next podcast, there's my weekly LinkedIn Live sessions. I'm doing these most Monday afternoons at 2:30 p.m, so come and join the fun in those. Unless, of course, it's a bank holiday, then I'll have my feet up and I'll be watching a James Bond film. A couple of things before we close. My course, Essential Psychodynamics for Coaches, starts again in January. The first 2 rounds have been absolutely fantastic. I've had fabulous groups of coaches and there's been lots of learning and discussions. There's already people joining up now for January, so if you don't want to miss out, come and join the incredible coaches who are already signing up for the psychodynamic fun. Send me a DM or an email and we can have a chat. If you're interested but not sure what it might involve, then I'm doing a webinar on LinkedIn on Wednesday the 5th of November in the afternoon, where I'm going to be talking about the Essentials course and answering any questions that people might have. So do come along to that. The link for that is on my LinkedIn profile page. And as we always finish, looking at ourselves at this level can be challenging and unnerving as we develop our awareness. So I'd always encourage that you do this at your own speed. To have a chat about psychodynamics and find out more about the different ways that you can work with me, either as a trainer, coach, supervisor or mentor, then click on the link that's in the show notes. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Dynamics of Everyday Life. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. As well as producing this podcast, The Dynamics of Everyday Life has lots more psychodynamic fun going on, and you can find out more at dynamicsofeveryday.life.